talk about topics.
Sorry.
Got it.
So I probably forget.
Got it. And and that's me. So Linda, you want to go next?
Yeah, my name's Linda Elriani. I'm now working at US Squash, which I'm happy to say. My job, this is one of my jobs. I've been asked to take care of the districts. So my other part is professional development and programming. But I'm obviously happy to help you guys in any way I can. So always reach out to me if you ever have any ideas or any support in any way. And I hope we can make our districts even stronger.
Great. John?
JP, Virginia Squash.
Ryan, you're next on my screen.
My name is Ryan Rayfield. I know many of you, have spoken with many of you over the last 10 years. My time with US Squash, I primarily run the organization and product called Club Locker.
Kevin, we know you, but go ahead.
Kevin Klipstein, President and CEO of US Squash. Hello, everybody.
Hey, Kevin.
Paul?
Paul Buck. I am a right wall doubles player. I'm the president of SoCal Squash.
SoCal. Oh, great. Excellent. Ben?
Hey, I'm Ben. This is my first time being invited to and joining this meeting, and I've recently started helping run the New York City Squash League and help with other New York squash things throughout the year.
Great. Good to meet you, Ben. Numero uno. I just like your name.
No. Sorry, Tim Durnley. There's a weekly family chat, and I was crapping on a brother there.
Tim, well, tell the group where you are.
I'm president of the Philadelphia Squash Rackets Association.
Thanks. Lisa?
Lisa Patukian. I am heading up the leagues for Massachusetts Squash, have been for a number of years now, and vice chair. So I guess that means I'm next in line, but I've got another 11 months and counting.
Excellent. Chris?
Hi, Kara. Chris Haley, President, Maryland Squash.
Perfect. Ricky, you're on. Nice to see you.
Hi, everybody. I think I also know quite a few of you. My name is Ricky Weisskopf. I work closely with Ryan Club Locker, and I run the product side of the tool.
Perfect. And Eddie?
Yeah, hi. I'm sorry I'm not on video. I'm in the car. My name's Eddie O'Leary. I am part of Virginia Squash and help JP with communications and events. And I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Perfect. All right. So we had a lot of, oh, did I miss? No, I got everybody. We have kind of 3 separate items on the agenda for today. And I'm glad that we have representation from a few of the districts that we haven't seen in a year or so. So the topics that we had lined up for today, the first one is to talk about participation in general in the districts with regard to leagues and tournaments and play, and some of the successes and some of the challenges that our organizations have faced kind of recovering after COVID. We can, kind of go around the horn if you guys have specific things. I got some topics from some folks that we can discuss, but really it's more like before the season begins, what can we do differently to really encourage more fulsome participation in our activities? Second topic is Club Locker, which is why you see Ryan and Ricky here. And, we're going to kind of talk about what's happened over the last year since we talked to Ryan and Ricky last, kind of what's been going on, what the state of affairs is, and what's on the roadmap going forward. What's the plan and what's preventing us from kind of doing things more quickly like we'd like. And the third one is Coach Pass, which was something that we talked about last year, but we're going to kind of revisit and just talk about how it's working, like how it's going, how much participation have we seen, how's it being monitored or maintained, any kind of ongoing questions. I mean, obviously there's always unusual fringe cases and we don't have to get into those too much, but if you want to bring up any of those kinds of situations. And then we've had a lot of questions, Linda, and I don't know if you're prepared to talk about this, but Coach Pass, one of the important parts is safe sport. And we've had a lot of questions about how does our district have to prepare itself with regard to children, juniors playing in our leagues or our organized kind of adult tournaments that we do self-scheduled or otherwise. Like, does any of that stuff apply to us? So we don't have to address that now, but I thought I'd bring that up too.
Okay.
So let's go back to the first, because I think it's a kind of the bread and butter stuff of what our districts do, leagues and tournaments, overall participation. And, Lisa, I'd rather have you address kind of our very healthy participation in leagues and all that, but we are really almost back to the levels of participation we saw prior to COVID. In fact, I think if Carl was here, who you all know, if Carl was here, he would tell you that our junior girls membership is higher than it's ever been, ever. That's the only subcategory that is higher. The rest, and the total numbers are just under where we were pre-COVID. But I think we've had a very robust kind of comeback, even with the fewer clubs that we have found ourselves with after that. I would like to hear from the crews like Maryland and Southern California, the folks that I haven't heard from before, particularly Maryland, because I know that you guys have been challenged with the number of courts available and whatnot.
Sure. Karen, this is Chris. So there are a couple observations, and I appreciate you making the forum available. So historically, really, our COVID casualty was Nancy Cushman's place, Meadow Mill, which was over a dozen courts, predominantly used for juniors, not as much of an adult program, but we've added 10 courts from a local high school, middle school called Calvert, where we've actually hosted some college events very recently. We added 4 courts at St. Paul's. We've added 6 down in Columbia. So I would say that we're actually neutral on the number of singles courts. Our doubles courts, we have 1 private, 3 at the Maryland Club, 1 at BCC, and 1 at the Naval Academy. We have another one being built privately, closer to DC. I think the biggest challenge that I've observed, and I've only taken over in the last 3 years or so, but obviously dealing with a little bit of the Meadow Mill recovery and the COVID recovery, is that my big picture view is that our private clubs have really upped their game for their members, such that our clubs are so outgoing and encouraging to their existing club members that it's very difficult for us to go back to where we were as Maryland Squash, where we had 4 to 8 events, singles and doubles events, open to everybody, for 2 reasons. One is the private clubs have their calendars very active for their members. And number 2 is our local pros, whether they be public pros or private pros for our junior programs, the juniors are completely booked. It's almost impossible to get more than 20 juniors to show up for open state events. They just have, they have a gold, silver, bronze, blue, yellow, green tournament, almost like every weekend or every other weekend. So it's very difficult for us as part of the state, our state program, to really make them, to get them involved. Now, I think they're doing great. Our numbers are fantastic from everything I hear from our teaching pros and our junior high school and middle school programs, our doubles numbers, the Maryland Club is just the really big. We have 128 teams for this summer's handicap doubles tournament at our club. And I'm on the board of that club. So it's just crazy how much activity we have there. But to try to get other people in the state involved, the clubs have just done so much. And the juniors, my observation is the juniors have so many other options privately with these JCT things that it's just hard to get them. So I just share that as observations. We're going to host, we had our state singles and doubles championships in 2020 and in 21, 22 and 23. We're going to host them in the fall. So we're only doing 1 or 2 state events right now, where we used to do, I think, a long time ago, but it was anywhere from 4 to 8 for the state. But we just have so much private activity that it's hard to get the same numbers that we used to.
So the state events that you're talking about, Chris, they're like just different tournaments open to adults and to juniors, right? Or are you talking about something else?
Yep, that's
Yeah.
it. Yep.
Yeah, I think several of you, I don't know if it's the ones on this call, mentioned the decline. And Kevin, we've talked about this too, the decline in state district sponsored adult weekend tournaments.
Yeah, I mean, it's a 25-year trend, basically. It's interesting to see what's happening post-COVID. It's hard to even say without looking at it deeper if it's necessarily a good thing or a bad thing, in that 40 years ago, because the sport was so small, everybody went to every tournament up and down the East Coast. And so it felt big. 20 years ago, that sort of translated more into local activity and robust leagues. And now, maybe post-COVID, because of the clubs are so active, people are as satisfied as they need to be sort of with their hyper-local community. They don't necessarily feel a need to go beyond that. So in some ways, it may reflect more activity, but less travel and more sort of cross-club or cross-city engagement. So, but what you described, Chris, is what I hear kind of around the country, really.
I mean, if the pie was the same today, I think the pie is about the same, but I think the share of activity of that pie is occurring more in club rather than open state, open district activity.
Yeah.
Just to give you an example, we're scheduling at the Maryland Club for home and aways, for tournaments, for pro events, just on our doubles. We're now scheduling in the fall of 25. That's how busy it is. And part of that is a function of the doubles play has moved, a fair amount of the doubles play has moved from Meadow Mill to the Maryland Club, and our singles activity, we don't even have a league like Philly and Boston for the singles. We're looking at resurrecting it, but that will require us to ask, our local, 6 or 7 leading pros to dedicate their time. So we, as part of Maryland Squash, which is, very well capitalized, we may have to come out of pocket to incentivize our pros to do that. Whereas previously it was all volunteer work.
Well, what do you mean to, you would pay the pros to organize the league?
We would give them a piece of the action of the tournament. So for each of just as an example, our Maryland State singles and doubles, we're going to run them over a 2.5-month period, starting mid-September, with our finals going over 2 days at 2 different clubs. We will remunerate to each of the clubs, whether they be private or public, whether they be $50 a month or $500 a month. We, as part of Maryland State, are remunerating those clubs, a dollar figure to thank them and their pros for their activity. And we'll have to do that for another event we're planning in mid-December as a thank you. And also, we recognize that these pros make a good amount of money in their living off of lessons and clinics. So for us to use their courts, that we view them as quote unquote court managers, we have to give them something.
Listen, Chris, don't tell anybody in Boston about that, all right?
Sorry.
Not a word.
Yeah. It's not that we're inducing them. We're just really saying thank you for your time. I think everybody wants the numbers to hold or go up, but that's the least that we can do, is to try to get, to say thank you and get people's attention.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. So, Paul, what about you in California?
Well, we've had, I would say over the last couple of years, we've had some things that have gone very well, and we've had some challenges. Looking at the district, which runs from Santa Barbara down to San Diego, the region of Santa Barbara has been impacted largely because the Santa Barbara Athletic Club closed down the courts, and the Santa Barbara School of Squash is now relegated to using one racquetball court at the Y. And we are working with Robert Graham to try to figure out what we can do to support him with either outdoor courts or helping him in any way we can find a location and to get some courts for his program. His program is still quite active, though. He's been able to keep quite a few kids in this Santa Barbara School of Squash. Moving down into LA, I would say the bright spots are our doubles league is still very active. We have 2 doubles courts at the Jonathan Club, and there is 1 doubles court down at Access Youth in San Diego. So those are the 3 doubles courts in our district. Aria and his team of maybe 5 coaches up at Arroyo Seco, which is the LA Squash Academy, are really hitting it out of the park. They are busy day and night with summer camps, but before that, all teaching kids and adults how to play squash. So they are I would say, the most active club. The LA Athletic Club has just come back. We're waiting to see what's happening with them. They may be renovating 2 racquetball courts, so that would give them 4. Another exciting bit of news here is that Access Youth has expanded and will be opening a program at the Y in downtown LA. That begins in September of this year. And I would say that those are the high points of LA. Orange County, we have a couple of clubs down there that are very active, again, mostly juniors. And in San Diego, we have Access Youth, a beautiful facility, great people, great location. They're doing very well, but San Diego Squash at San Diego Racket Club or Athletic Club, sorry, Kevin, you can help me with that, has closed. So it's the Bay Club or it's Access Youth primarily in San Diego. So we've had some turnover. I will say that our most active program is our Juniors League, which runs from October to February. We had 14 teams and 85 kids in it this year. We had lost most of our gold, maybe silver players, maybe through conflict of schedule. We're trying to look at work with our pros now in each of the regions of our district to find dates that work for us to open up these programs again to the better players.
Hey,
And
Paul, do you run an adult league and a juniors league?
no, we run a juniors league. There is no adult league.
No
No
adult
adult
league.
league in SoCal. No.
Okay.
There are adult ladders in the clubs, but there's no adult league other than the doubles league, which is an adult league.
Okay.
So and there is one other thing that Kevin has been very involved in, and that's the Play LA, where we've worked into 2 parks in LA and offered young kids the opportunity to learn the game. And it's very gratifying as a volunteer. I can say it's very gratifying to be out there hitting the ball with the kids and seeing them get better. I think there is a drive to get some older kids involved instead of 6 and 7 year old, maybe 10 and 11-year-old or 12-year-olds. So it's something that's still in the first year of its existence, and we're hoping that it will grow. And that's all outdoor squash on handball courts
Oh,
at city parks. Yep.
yeah. And how do you market that? Like, how do you find kids that want to play?
If you, well, a lot of it comes from kids who see other kids playing it at the park, from 5 to 6 o'clock on a Tuesday or a Thursday night. But there is a website for Play LA, and it lists all the sports that are offered, and squash is listed. The graphics and the descriptives have not been refined at this point. We're hoping to work with LA Recreation and Parks to improve our graphics and our outreach. But I think the first thing we wanted to do is get in the parks and start the program. We did it. The kids like it. The directors of the parks like it. It is not without its challenge, though. I mean, some of these parks have problems, and there are gangs in some of the neighborhoods. I mean, there are things that we are working around. But we did have one sort of incident. We did bring it up to LA Recreation and Parks. They made a huge presence from that time forward, and we've had no issues at the parks. But parks can be challenging.
Yeah. What do you do about a back wall? What about that?
Well, we're teaching kids how to hit the ball now.
Mhm.
So we we don't have a back wall yet, but we have an architect on our board who is working on a outdoor squash court design that would include a movable back wall.
Oh.
So we're working on it. And during COVID, John Dewis and a bunch of guys were playing up in a park in near South Pasadena. It didn't have a back wall. It had longer sidewalls than the 2 parks that I was referring to earlier. But we were able to play games. We just knew that, beyond a certain line, it was out, and we ran for everything. It was fun.
Yeah.
You can have fun in the 3-wall court.
Yeah, that sounds good.
So, and there is one other thing I didn't mention. We also have a board member who's working with UCLA to get their club squash team moving. And I don't know if they came to Philadelphia this year, but they were going up to San Francisco. We had a couple trips up there, played Stanford, played some other schools, and did quite well. And he is also working with USC to see if we can get them back into some sort of program here. And beyond that, I haven't met with him in a couple of months, so I'm not sure where he is on expanding the program into other colleges, but that's starting to get some traction now.
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting just looking at these, at the 12 faces on the screen and thinking of the different challenges and assets that each of us have, you know, like outdoor courts. I just don't see that ever working in Massachusetts, but we've got plenty of clubs and courts and organized leagues and volunteers. And, you know, a juniors league is another thing that we don't run, but we've been, you know, and Lisa can talk to this, we've been challenged with lots of juniors wanting to play in the adult league and a very robust adult league, and then trying to decide how we're going to accommodate the interests of the adults. They want to make friends, they want to go out and have beers after. They really don't want to lose to a 9-year-old and then not, you know, and do you know what I mean? And then and not have someone new that they've met that they can befriend and play with. There's a lot of different challenges, but a junior league is something that we discussed also. Anybody else want to chime in? Paul, thank you for that.
Well, we have in Philadelphia, we have some juniors playing in the adult singles league. Like we'll let one junior play on a 4 or 5 singles team, but unlike grown-ups who, you know, have a ratings window, like a deadline for the season, we run the juniors weekly because their sort of growth is exponential. So that's for the 4 or 5, and for the open singles, we could have more, but like we just want those top level kids playing. We also have a ton of juniors, so they have their own sort of sub bronze. We run a junior league as well.
So can I just ask a question? Do you have an age limit? Do they need to be 16? Can they be 8 or 9 as long as they're a 4.0, 4.5 level, kind of know their way around the court?
I think we have to have them in high school. I can check what the wording is and send it to you if you'd like.
Yeah, because we're actually in the process of trying to put a few more guardrails in place for the adult league activity. In general, what we're seeing so far is the juniors participating or wanting to participate in the adult leagues in Massachusetts. And we've got 60 different teams, so lots of different people wanting to play. They tend to be public school students that don't have a private school team yet. So until we've actually built up and made more progress, doubling our public school leagues, we're going to be dealing with guardrails for juniors participating in the adult leagues, as long as there's a way to maneuver it with the safe sport requirements.
Just to give you all some perspective for a league participant that has been humbled by a couple of 15 and 16-year-olds in the past season. I actually quite like it. I play in the open division, and I don't think there's a problem at all there. Tim, you know, like we're always playing against those guys, and to me, it's like it's fun. Kara, I completely understand the social aspect of it. And sometimes it's a little awkward for sure. But I think there's enough adults at least in the Philly league that sort of gets taken care of. But you know, I grew up playing against adults. That's not something that happens here a lot. But I think for juniors, it could be actually pretty beneficial to get out of their own sort of little circle of players and play with adults that play completely different that they are. And in the open divisions, I don't see a lot of adults kind of complaining about playing juniors. It's more, you know, you sort of do it for. I usually complain, but more tongue in cheek. But I actually quite enjoy it.
What about the parents, Ricky? We seem to have a lot of complaints about the parents of the juniors that play both league and the state tournament. Our state tournament this year, by the way, how many of those finals, Lisa, were full, you know, were a junior versus a junior in our state bracket.
In the open 3-5, 5 of the 8 finalists were juniors. 5 of the 8. That's a lot.
That's interesting.
Yeah, but I liked your idea, Tim, about running, kind of giving them the boot like insisting that they bump up to the next league. Would you do the same with this state tournament, or Philadelphia doesn't run a state tournament?
We run like a self-scheduled singles tournament. There aren't too many juniors in that. But if we'd probably bounce them if a kid started at 4 or 5 and 3 weeks later or a month later he's a 5-1. We make him default and off you go. But that hasn't happened.
Yeah, well, we haven't been doing that. We've our rule has been at the beginning of the season, if you're in, you're in, and then it's that's
not
why
for
they're
League Scarra. Not for League Scarra. We actually did
state.
promote several juniors mid-season.
Mid-season,
But
okay.
you just have to watch them carefully. They skyrocket. They're seismic. Yeah.
Like the people that tend to give us the most grief are sort of the 4 or 5 singles guys that are good enough to run around but mind losing. At the open level, we really don't hear about it at all.
We actually welcome the kids because usually they're available, and it's good to fill up the teams instead of the adults that have other responsibilities, at least at the open level. It's always
so
good to
Ricky,
count them.
Ricky, the question I had for you was, had anybody made any comments or concerns about safety, not at the 4-5-5-0 level, but more at the 3-0-3-5 level, where frankly a lot of the adults are still conquering their body parts in terms of control.
So that's probably a better question for Tim. And Tim, correct me if I'm wrong, but at that level, I don't think you would get juniors involved.
Yeah, we don't let juniors play unless it's 4 or 5 and above.
Right.
Okay. Good to know. Thank you.
That's
Thank you. Good to know.
And that's in your, Tim, that's in your league?
Correct.
Okay. For our events, our state events, we run age-based and we run ratings-based. It's just so much easier with singles as compared to doubles. So in our singles, we'll do both age and rating-based for all kinds of, various events, either weekend events or state tournament events. But it's so hard to get the juniors into the state events because it doesn't do anything for them for what they're trying to do in middle school and high school. They're so concerned about their interplay rating for and their rankings. So that's one of the challenges.
Just so everybody knows, one of the things that, sorry.
I just want to add, National Capital, we've always let juniors play. We don't have a huge amount of them playing. I do think it's beneficial to them. The ones that want to play are the ones that really just love the sport and want to play. And, there's only so much competition they can get playing on the weekends. And it also exposes them to different styles of play. I mean, we have a lot of international people coming to DC. There's a lot of international people generally in the squash community, probably even in the United States. And I think having that different style of play is beneficial for juniors. We've also had self-scheduled tournaments. Those usually have been short enough in time frame, when we've had district championships, that we didn't have to worry about them getting too good for their skill level group. And, I think one of the now national champions played in that skill level tournament. So, and it was clear the juniors that played this were definitely playing.
Oops.
Get the additional playing practice.
Just so everybody knows, one of the things that I'm hoping to do in the new season is to start a league, junior leagues in certain cities for the younger kids. So obviously, like you said, the older, higher level kids can play in the adults leagues potentially, but we're trying to get and those kids, if they're playing tournaments, are very busy competing and homework and school squash if they have it and all that stuff. So they don't actually have a lot of time, as you said. But with the league I'm talking about will be one for more of the kind of grassroots, trying to give kids who are just starting out the chance to play some competitive matches and see if they really enjoy it in a team environment. So I'll let you know when that starts to happen. I'll be reaching out to the pros because they'll be the ones who are going to have the teams from their clubs involved. But if any of you want to be involved in that in any way, just let me know. But I think
Well,
that'd be.
I just want to interject here. I hope you're familiar with the Massachusetts Squash Junior League and how that works. It's not actually competitive play. It's like a round robin for kids, and they put them into pools, and it seems very successful. So,
right. I mean, some cities or areas might not need that, but I know there are some cities that I know there's a group of pros in San Francisco, for example, that are super keen to get a league set up for the younger kids so that they can really get them playing before they really go out and play tournaments. We want to try and get the kids learning how to play matches and enjoy competing before they actually play in ranking tournaments, ideally, rather than throwing them in at the deep end, so that we can try and help the retention of kids in squash, because a lot of kids play one tournament and then they don't play again. So I think by playing some fun team league squash, hopefully that will help them to have fun, and then the next step after that would be to play in a bronze tournament or something. Yeah. But that's great that you obviously have areas that already have active leagues of some kind, and maybe if you could all send me your various versions of your junior leagues, then I can know what's already happening, and then I can either help with that or go to the places that do need help and you might not need any help, if that makes sense.
I think there's very little of it overall. The only other one that I'm aware of was the Berwyn Squash Club had a league where they would have ladder positions and different skill levels. So it's kind of an interesting mix. So I support what you're doing. I think it would be, good. I'm just saying those are the two models that are out there.
Yeah, that's great. And this would be to get into club matches going on. It wouldn't be the in-club stuff. It would be the try and actually get little teams together playing against each other and having fun that way.
Yeah.
Hey, Linda, can I suggest that we do a kind of a focus session once this year on not the elite junior squash. I mean, I think that there's plenty of the elite junior squash being serviced in the community. Sport that way, and that would also include public school leagues too. Wait, you're on mute.
You just got completely stuck, so I didn't hear anything you just said in that last bit. I'm sorry.
I was thinking that I'm looking at the time, and I do want to give Ryan and Ricky a moment or two to talk. But what I was thinking was this topic, the junior players, non-elite junior players, junior or kind of intro or medium level junior players, and have a whole session on that would include the growth of the public school squash teams in the regions and the kind of junior league that we were just talking about in where was it, California, and round robins and those kinds of things. We could make a whole session of it, and I think it would be really interesting and important for the group. But I want to just pivot, and I think we're going to push off Coach Pass because we've had so much conversation. We'll talk about Coach Pass another time if we could. Oh, wait. I just saw a look of exasperation somewhere.
I don't have to talk about it forever.
Oh, I'm kidding. I'm kidding because Linda worked so hard at that. I'm completely kidding.
No, that's fine. Let Ricky and Ryan speak about, and if there's time, I can quickly talk over some stuff at the end. If not, I can do it next time, whatever works for everybody.
Perfect. So Ryan, let's throw it over to you now, and you can kind of give us give us a summary of what's happening.
Sure. Linda, do you happen to be able to put the sharing ability on for me? So I think since our last conversation, somewhere between 6 and 12 months ago, we had come to that meeting talking through the difficulty that districts and therefore clubs and other constituencies had with understanding and seeing all of the updates that were going on in Club Locker, and also being able to get through questions or requests or enhancements or whatever. So we had mentioned we'd put together an appropriate sort of feedback loop. I've got a presentation here that'll take us through some of that, but also a few updates in terms of feature highlights and so forth. So I'll keep it really pretty quick. Happy to go through any questions, concerns outside of that. But let's pop in here. All right, so some quick feature updates that have gone in over the past year. We talked about briefly the self-scheduled, briefly the league improvements. A lot of times, what's often stated is, we forget about our league players. So 2 quick updates that we put in were requests for some additional settings on the league side to ensure that the participation rules that each league has are followed a little bit more closely. So we've got the ability to add to allow players to play in multiple positions in the league match, allow not on roster, or if those things are checked, to not allow those things. We also built a league import. So oftentimes the leagues are scheduled in a very different way across districts. I was talking separately on this call to Benjamin Baum there, as he's an engineer, about building an actual league scheduler. Some of those conversations were had over the past year and fell off a bit, but we're going to pick those back up as well. Focus on some of the league scheduling capabilities over this year. In lieu of that, those processes and procedures you do have at this point for scheduling now allows us to really quickly upload them. From a tournament perspective, we've had this for a while, but I thought it important to highlight. Tim, you mentioned you have there's often a self-scheduled tournament that are run. I think these are really positive, low commitment type of ways to get a much larger geographic area involved. So if and when you create those tournaments, you can have them self-scheduled. There doesn't need to be a specific venue, it doesn't need to be a specific time. And these we see happen both in a lot of different districts. But if you don't do them, then definitely a helpful thing to start doing. So this allows people to simply go to a draw and enter in a score, and they can also live score if they want. But most oftentimes they can just go into the draw, press the match, and then enter their score.
Just a quick adding to that. This is just another way to reduce the overhead on the admins, so that people don't send you the scores, but actually they can go into their own match and add their score themselves, so that you don't have to chase them for those scores. I know it happens a lot. I am guilty of that, but with this is something that that would help admins do that.
Right. So the additional pieces on the tournament side, we're actually currently working on new invitation processes and flows. So right now, if you are to hold a tournament, whether or not it's a national tournament, a regional tournament, or whatever, or just a club championship, players need to go find the tournament. They need to create an account, and they need to go through either club, district, or US Squash. So we're making the process infinitely easier, such that you could theoretically import a list of 100, 200 participants and have those emails get sent out, and even run the tournament without those players having to go through the process of even creating an account, really, though we of course would like them to. So that will also help. The invitation process will also help with new organizations signing on to use Club Locker, the reservation system, or any of the organized play. Simple sort of import and have all the emails generated and have people pop on and be able to use the program more immediately and in a much easier way. So we're also currently updating the tournament accreditation and registration forms. The idea here is to, again, simplify the creation, but also the creation process, but also the registration process. As of right now, it's not that easy to join multiple divisions, and more specifically multiple divisions at different price points. So this has been an often requested feature by a number of different tournament directors, and we should see that coming this fall.
A question?
Yeah, sure.
Did I hear you say that you're setting up a format that allows folks to run leagues and make it easier to not be a member of US Squash? Did you say that?
No, what I meant, what I think I said was that for the situations, let's say in a club environment, one in which you don't need, though we again would like players to become members. You don't need to be a member, of course, to use the reservation system and operate, within a club environment. Those club tournaments are relatively, they're going to be much easier to sign up for, and the tournament director is going to be able to manage that tournament across all of the tournament participants without the need for those players to immediately sign up. So it's we're essentially creating an invitation process, but that invitation you can actually do something with. Yeah.
Great idea. Good idea. Thank you.
Yeah, the hope is we can also extend this to, this goes to more the Club Locker side, where I truly believe it can be a real catalyst for growth at the club level. But the idea here is to have that ability kind of seep into every aspect of the program. So you can imagine you're making a reservation or you're joining a clinic and you toss an invite yourself out to 5 friends, right? So those 5 friends get an invitation to join the clinic or join your reservation or whatever. Do they have to create an account? No. But if they do create an account, now they're in the system, we can say, hey, by the way, you can get a rating. You can join your friend for maybe it's a less of a cost in the reservation. You can do all this fun stuff at the club. And the idea is to kind of use the power of the network to try to expand the sport. And we can do that through this invitation sort of concept in a number of different areas. So again, kind of coming back around to the one of the big questions from last time, how do you figure out what's going on, what's up, what's coming up next, what has been released, and how do you tell us what you need? We've been through a number of iterations here, but we've settled at current on a combination of a newsletter and a feedback site. So the newsletter, we'll send this link around. I can put it in the chat here. Sign up and we will be sending out highlights on the existing features, some updates on what's coming up next, some materials that either the district or the club or even individuals might use to kind of encourage people to play the game and encourage people to join, say, a box, league, ladder, whatever at a club. And then finally kind of spotlighting some of the successes that organizations and clubs have had using different aspects of the software. So again, I'll send out that newsletter link. And then from a feedback standpoint, if you go to feedback.clublocker.com, you will get to a site that's called FeatureBase. FeatureBase is very kind of bare bones, but it tells you exactly what you want without all the frills, I believe. So you go to feedback.clublocker.com, create an account, submit the feedback, submit it. We get that in our emails. You can follow, other people can look at that, upvote or downvote. The feature can kind of serve as a little bit of a crowdsourced feedback mechanism and we can communicate directly with you, both on there and then of course through email. In addition, it's not yet populated, but you will see the a roadmap. I think that's on the next slide here. Yeah. So you can see a roadmap here that takes you through ideas that we have in review, those that have been reviewed and then therefore planned, which ones are in progress, completed, and which ones we've maybe make a better term than rejected, but which ones we're putting off to a later date for one reason or another.
So Ryan, what is the difference between the feedback summary that you see here through Club Locker and what's going to be published in the newsletter?
Not much, just that the newsletter is a kind of active, a more active or outward.
Pushed. It'll get pushed to us, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Just to add to that, the newsletter is also meant to be informative. One of the things that we want to start engaging with our community a little bit more. That's why the spotlight on club admins and actually clubs. We have found that we have a lot of very interesting and unique clubs in our ecosystem that deserve a little bit more recognition. So the idea of the newsletter is more of a community and also some information. The idea of feature based and that platform is mostly feedback collection and feedback response, so that can be done a little bit more automated. Obviously, support at clublocker.com is still live, and we still get a lot of emails from feedback there, and we respond to that. But this is just adds visibility to everybody that goes to feedback at clublocker.com.
Okay, good.
Any other questions, Kara? We talked a bit earlier today, but is there anything that anyone from the audience, so to speak, here wants to cover that we haven't? No, we're running out of time here.
Well, I'd like to say something, which is that at least for National Capital, you know, in terms of our value proposition for adults, really the only thing we have are leagues. And I really like the innovation of the self-scheduled tournaments that Massachusetts Squash pioneered. We have run some self-scheduled tournaments, and, you know, just as a local district, we just don't have a lot of volunteers. And we've tried hiring pros to run it. And, you know, I've run every single one. And it's a lot of work, and it's like entering the scores is the easiest part. I think it's great that we have that option, but the real problem is making sure people play their damn matches on time. And if they don't, it screws up the whole tournament. So it would be a huge thing where we would offer self-scheduled tournaments again, which I think would justify for people signing up for US Squash, especially now that membership costs an extra $50. If we could offer this tournament at least once a year, and frankly, it's too much work for us to run it without some more tools, and something that would have an automated reminder of a match being played. You know, when we do the draw, it says you have to play by this date on the draw, you know. And if in a week before there isn't a score entered, an automated reminder should go to all the participants, like, hey, if you played or scheduled your match or something like that. Anyway, I'm just saying, to me, like from a district perspective, in terms of offering a value proposition to members, we have to figure out a way to do it other than just adult league play, because there are a lot of people that can't play leagues. They can't drive across town during rush hour to play. You know, we have another league that's, you know, on the weekends now that's very successful, but you know, in terms of growing adult members, I think we need to be able to offer, you know, some sort of adult event like this, and we're just not able to do it. So maybe the other places can, but I think even the ones that can would find they could put their volunteers to use doing other things that isn't quite so mind numbing as, you know, sending emails to people reminding them to play their matches. And I see Lisa's, reacting to that. I would imagine that's the biggest headache for, the people running these tournaments. And it also may apply, especially for junior tournaments, like the rookie parents and players at a bronze, like, a reminder, like they need to play their match at such and such a time wouldn't be a bad thing, perhaps. But, mainly for the adult tournaments.
Yeah, thank you, David. Let's put that on the feedback site there. You'll be interested to know that we actually have released this year text message communication capabilities, both at the club level as well as the tournament level, as well as have the communication set up on those tournaments to kind of look at every round, draw active players, non-active players, and kind of slice and dice that so you can communicate effectively. I know you know that has been there for a while, and your automated reminders are definitely, we'll take note of that. And then I think it's going to be a lot easier to manage that with text message updates, because ultimately nobody reads their email anyway.
Hey, so Ryan, speaking of reading the email, how frequently will the newsletter be published, and when's the first one?
It's a good question. I don't have an answer for you. It's being written right now. We don't have a specific timeline, but we can definitely set something on a at least monthly schedule.
Yeah, no, I don't think it needs to be more than monthly at all. I was just wondering if by the time this crew reconvened in 2 months, if we would have seen one by then.
You should, yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, now I'm looking at the time and it is 5 o'clock, but I do kind of want to hear from Linda before we sign off. So if you want to, can you give us the quick version? Then we can get into more details if there's more questions.
Yeah, I'll show you my screen and then I'll show you the PowerPoint that
I don't want to disappoint John over there because, he came just for that purpose, apparently.
So I'll very quickly just go over all the different parts because I'm not sure how much all of you know about it. But as it says on this slide, basically it was put in place to make sure that to professionalize our sport and to make sure it's safe.
I'm not seeing the slide, Linda.
Oh, you're not?
Yeah, we're seeing your file system here.
Oh, you're not seeing the... Oh, interesting. You can't see that slide?
No.
And
I was joking just because the pros pushed back so hard on it. I thought we should give her
a friendlier audience. Is that what you think?
See it now?
I'll fill some. Oh yeah, there you go.
There it is. There you
Okay,
go.
great.
Linda, I'll give you the intro though. Going off JP's comment that Linda did a fantastic job under very narrow time constraints and got this not only over the starting line, but I think managed to turn it around with many of the pros to kind of recognize the value now and moving forward. So a huge thank you to Linda. Great job this year.
Thank you. I do really believe in it though. I think it's really going to help our sport in so many ways that most people don't even realize yet. I mean, who doesn't want to have a sport that's more professional, safer, that the pros are more educated? Like it's just a win-win from my perspective. Another thing that's really great is that our pros list that we had has more than doubled, like our database on the pros list. So we obviously can't help the pros or support the pros if we don't know who they are. So now that we have a pros list that's nearly 500 people on it, that's a massive group of people that we can communicate with. And even with down to our visas, now when people ask for a visa support letters from US Squash, there's certain criteria. I mean, I'm jumping through my slides here, but well, let me go back to that in a minute because there's a slide for that. So basically, we've got 226 premium members at the moment. We've only got 13 basic members. We've got over 300 light members. The premium members basically can coach at any tournament, whether it's nationals, JCTs, bronze, silver, gold. The basic members can only coach at bronze, silver, gold, so they can't go to nationals or JCTs, which is, we thought we'd put that in there because there may be pros who don't want to go to JCTs or go to nationals, but by the numbers it seems that most people do, so that's why the numbers in the premium so much higher. And then we have a whole load of free Coach Pass Lights, which are basically our middle school and high school coaches or leaders, or teachers that are taking the teams to the nationals. And we thought that was really important because we don't want to discourage anybody from doing such a fantastic job with their school teams, and they shouldn't have to, they're not making their living from it, most of them at least. And then if you do pay for your Coach Pass, then you obviously get your membership, your US squash membership refunded. And then there's obviously requirements here. I don't know if you want me to go through them. I'm going to send out this PowerPoint to you all after, but do you want me to go through all of this? Because
I mean, I think, well, we're losing some people kind of as we go.
Okay, so
I think send out the deck, but
yeah,
what we really wanted was an update from the last time that, when we first heard about it.
I mean, I don't know what you were told, obviously, because I wasn't on the call, but basically upcoming now is we're doing some coaching modules which will help further educate our pros. The first one coming out, as it says on this slide, is a coaching women and girls, and we're just sorting out the technical parts to get that out, but we're hoping in the next week or so that will be out, and we're hoping our pros take that course and it'll help them to how they teach women and girls going forward. And that's an area that we desperately want to keep growing anyway. So if this can help impact how women and girls get taught and how they enjoy the sport, then that is obviously a win-win. And there'll be other future modules too: scholastic squash, community squash, club programming development, blah, blah, blah. It'll go on and on. It's something we want to keep going on and on throughout the years. And there's also going to be best practices that we've put together. We've already put together the ones on this deck that will be available for free to the Coach Pass members. So it's giving them different packs that they can use to run their programs and help them with that. We'll also be doing some webinars for the pros, like interactive learning with sports psychologists, strength and conditioning, leadership, sports nutrition. That'll all be coming up in the new season. So there's lots of different bits that will be coming in that we haven't done before, basically. So it'd be exciting to be able to offer that to the pros and keep them being able to, further their sports education and squash education. And then at the end of this pack, we won't go through this now because I know that everyone's time constraint, but there's frequently asked questions at the end that people can read if they have any. And like here, we're bringing in women and girls coaching courses. So if anybody in your area, there's women or girls that would love to take a coaching course, let me know. We can set them up. We've already done a start squash course and a level 1 coaching course, which just had women and they were really successful. We're going to do a start squash course before How Cup and before Masters in the hope to get some women doing that. But again, if you know of any women that you think would love to be a part of one, we'd love to get some more people signed up for those sort of courses. The feedback from the women and the girls was just that it was so nice to be learning just around other women, and they felt more confident doing that. A lot of women, the feedback from the women was that they felt a little intimidated. If you look at an average course, quite often there's just 1 or 2 women amongst 10 men. And for some women that's fine, but others that would put them off. So it's great to be able to give them the opportunity to learn where they just feel they're in a kind of less judgy environment potentially. Is there anything anybody wants to ask me? I mean, I mentioned about the visa letters. Now we're obviously asking more of our pros that live in this country. Now we also have requirements in place for the pros that want to come into the country. It doesn't seem fair to ask a lot of the pros in the country and then not care who's coming in to coach. So now we're asking more of those. So I think it's just, like I say, professionalizing it and just means that, and those people that are coming in, then we know who they are, they can be part of the program again, and it's just making the whole thing work better. No, I think it's going to be great, and it's only going to grow and change along the way as well.
Yeah. And how has the administration of the program been monitored and,
Yeah, me.
You're looking at her.
Yeah, so when people obviously want to get a coach pass, I set them up. I get all the different, I make sure they've got all the different components. They get a digital coach pass, which they save on their phone, and then they can go to tournaments and they show the tournament directors that they have one when they enter to coach.
so that has become a part of every tournament director's protocol, is show me your badge.
Yeah.
Okay. That's,
And obviously we know that might not be working as well as we want in some occasions, but there's been many directors that have been doing a fantastic job, and they'll send us a list of people that came in who didn't have a coach pass, so I can reach out to them and get them set up. And then when we do our JCTs and our nationals, because it's run by US Squash, I'll be at the desk and I'll be checking everybody's coach passes. And
so Linda, what happens to those folks that come with students or juniors to tournaments? They don't have a badge, their name gets sent to you.
I send
Can
them.
they still enter the tournament? Can they still go in and do what they need to do?
Yes, but then after that we reach out to them, and then we say the one thing that we are most stringent about is the safe sport. So if someone comes to a JCT at the moment, they come in, they'll have to pay for their coach pass if they want to come in and coach, but they'll because we're running the tournament, it's easier for us to do that. But they'll have to do their safe sport. They won't be able to come in if they haven't done their safe sport.
I see.
So they'll have to go away and do their safe sport, which if they've never taken it before, it takes about an hour and a half. If they've taken it before but it needs refreshing, it takes about half an hour. And then they can come in and they'll pay for it, and then they can coach.
Got it.
So
The people who aren't our tournaments, we just get told about it, and then I'll help set them up after the fact.
So Kara, currently there's a lower bar for non-directly run events, non-directly US Squash run events. Which is a decent segue to the safe sport question in the chat. But the high level on Coach Pass, Kara, since the last update, where we sprung it on the community in sort of November, December, is we've got more than 500 coaches and pros enlisted. They're getting full-time support from Linda and continuing education, and we know what their training level is, and we know that they're safe sport certified and can push that all the way down to the local level. So it's a huge success in many ways.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
All right.
Does anybody have any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question. I think this is great. Speaking as a former tournament director, some of my biggest headaches were with coaches interfering with, refereeing and such. But I mean, this is pretty rare, but I would, one of my other concerns is making the sport accessible. And, a lot of kids cannot, and I think actually may be better off in the long run if they don't have coaches in tow to national events and junior championship tournaments. And a number of the better players in our region can't afford that. But, if we just have like another parent, that knows the sport well, do they need a coach pass to help, do informal coaching at a JCT? Like, how does that work?
I mean, if you're coaching your own child, then you obviously don't need to. And I think if it was just a friend helping a friend, no one's going to say anything. But if it's a coach who's a parent who's actively out there coaching a ton of people, then they would need to get a coach pass. But I think if a friend's helping a friend out and you're just parents, no one has a problem with that. But again, I think if you're going to be in that position, you need to make sure you've got your safe sport. So, but I think that's very rare, that the situation you're talking about, from what I see at JCTs at least.
Yeah, well, that may be unfortunate, but anyway, it sounds like if it's one, it's fine. Basically, a friend, it's okay.
Yeah.
But
as long as you're not like an actual official coach who's out and you're getting paid, and
no, I'm not talking about anybody getting paid.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
just,
No, I think we all want to use our common sense and make sure we're not trying to hurt people and stop people from being able to compete. But at the same time, it's been put in place for good reason. So, Yeah.
All right,
I think-
super. So I'm gonna wrap it up here because I know that we're folks are peeling off and we're gonna have to go. The 2 documents I think it'd be great if we could circulate those to all of the district leaders, not just the ones that were on the call.
Yeah.
And obviously, let's get the recording and those documents up on the website as well. There's no August session. Our next session is September 13th. Linda, is that right? September 13th? I think
I
that's
don't
right.
remember off the top of my head, but I'll obviously send an email
Yeah.
after today anyway. Yeah.
And we'll be in touch with topics and speakers and all of that kind of thing as well. So this was, I think, really interesting, and I was very happy to see kind of a new group of participants. Thank you all for joining. Any other closing comments before we head out?
No, thank you, everybody. And I look forward to working with you all in the future.
And Kara, I can follow up with Lisa about her safe sport question if you'd like.
Oh, thank you. You understand the
Yeah.
question, right?
Yep.
Okay,
I
perfect.
do.
All right. Thanks, Kevin.
you.
Thanks,
Okay,
Linda.
thanks, everybody.
Thank you,
Ryan.
Thanks,
everybody.
Linda,
Take care.
Ryan, Ricky.
you.
Happy summer.
Bye.
Yep, bye.
All right.